This is Leaders in Finance, a podcast where we find out more about the people behind a successful career. We speak with the leaders of today and tomorrow to discuss their motivations, their organizations, and their personal lives. Why? Because the financial sector could use a little more honest conversation. We'd like to thank our partners for their ongoing support. They are Kayak, EY, MeDirect, and Roland Berger. Your host is Jeroen Broekema.
Welcome to a new episode of Leaders in Finance. I'm very happy you're listening, and today we are reflecting on the CHRO or HR event that Leaders in Finance held today, literally about an hour ago, ended here in Soesterberg at Contact der Continenten. And I'm reflecting on this event today with three people that were actually on stage with us today. And I want to learn a couple of things about the event and maybe some interesting thoughts they had during the day, etc. But first of all, let me introduce them to you. Tom Alstein, who is partner at Deloitte. Welcome, Tom. Ruben Verkuijl is the CEO and founder at Kayak. Welcome.
Thank you.
And René, who is the CEO and founder at La Paya.
Thanks, Jeroen.
Great to have you guys. And first of all, Tom, could you maybe for the listeners introduce yourself a bit further than what I just did, mentioning your title?
Yeah, sure. Indeed, Tom, partner at Deloitte. I am responsible for what we call our organization and workforce transformation practice. So it's pretty much anything kind of organization, workforce and transformation at Deloitte. So that's a little bit my role and background as well.
Wonderful. Ruben?
Yes, thank you, Jeroen. Wonderful day we had today. My name is Ruben, of course. So 13 years ago, I founded and started Kayak, a staffing company. At the moment, investor in several tech startups as well, building a tech recruitment platform myself, and an enthusiastic surfer.
Wonderful. René, last but not least.
Thanks, René. Founder, CEO of La Paya, technically a blended training platform, but basically we help corporates upskill their people and make their workforces future ready. And today was super exciting for me because I started La Paya based on my former role from the other side of the organization, where I was the CHRO for a 6,000 people organization, and can really relate to a lot of the struggles that were being discussed today.
Wonderful. And I should mention that both Ruben and René have been on the podcast. We will mention the episode numbers in the show notes if you want to learn more about these guys, also their personal lives as well as their companies. So you were all three on stage, as I mentioned earlier, and I would love to learn what you actually did on stage with whom, what was kind of the setup. So Tom, what was your role today?
Yeah, I had the privilege to be on stage with three of the CHROs. Suzanne from ABN AMRO, Iman from DLL, and Desiree from Van Lanschot Kempen. And the main topic was really around the role of the CHRO and how is the role of the CHRO evolving, but what is also important for driving the change that we all see. Because just before us was the keynote of Janine Vos, the CHRO of Rabobank, who I think gave a great overview of where the world is going to, and also the world of business and HR is going to. And yeah, again, I had the privilege to be with them on stage, talking about CHRO as a strategist, CHRO also as kind of really the organization and capability builder. And we ended up with a great discussion around the CHRO as the Chief Transformation Officer.
So could you tell me one of the questions you asked and maybe one of the answers you actually appreciated most or you found very interesting?
There was a lot of interesting conversation. But if I look at kind of the key learning out of that is that it's really also about just stepping up and acting as a driver and an architect of the future. Right? So stepping out of the shadows as a CHRO or a HR specialist and try to take the reins on shaping that future, because that future is to a large extent human. So also HR needs to be front and center in that discussion.
But does that kind of imply that it's not, happening enough yet, this stepping up and really taking the stage?
It's quite a diverse picture, I think. You also saw that in the preparation, right, where some of the CHROs really point out like we already are at the table. It's more about making impact at the table. and others are still getting there. But I think traditionally, what we've seen is more of a dominance for a very long time from out of the finance column. Then I think we're going through a stream of more dominance from a tech column. But what you see more and more is looking at the organization more holistically. So you see HR and that profession becoming more and more central in what's driving the future of organizations.
Thanks. Ruben, what was your role today?
I was a member of the Tech and AI panel together with René here in the room as well, and Martine Zegers of Rabobank. And we shared our thoughts about what tech and AI can bring to the audience there today. And we shared our journeys and shared our vision about that. And to share my journey, it's quite amazing to myself as well that 16 weeks ago I started experimenting with AI. I had no software coding, programming experience, and with just 4 to 5 hours a week, I'm now able to generate my own code, generate my own code, create software programs, and build 2 to 3 websites. And it's not about my journey, but I told the audience it's about your journey, and please go out and venture, experiment, do this as well. 2 hours a week. Liane Carret even mentioned 30 minutes a day. Also, Janine Vos. We go out first and then we inspire others to do so. The message of the day, one of the messages of the day is, I think, experiment and adopt AI, and do not fight or see it as an evil power, but embrace it.
Oh, that's great. And I think a lot of people said, right, you need to be the role model in all kinds of settings today, right? You need to show yourself. And you actually did. I was wondering, you said 16 weeks ago, I didn't know much about it, pretty much my words, but and then you started learning yourself. What made you start doing this?
I was just interested what's out there more than ChatGPT or, for example, Claude of Anthropic, another language model. So there already is a broader scope of the AI landscape. And then I got into it and I wanted to, that was the start actually. I was having repetitive tasks every week to send out commercial leads or vacancies to my commercial team. And it came to my mind, okay, let's automate my own work. It must be possible. And without any ideas how to do that, I just started doing it or trying to build a program which would make my task, so it's not my job, but one of the tasks I have during the week, obsolete. So I should not, I had the possibility to free up time for myself. And there I went, and now it's done.
Well, I can imagine that you get very excited when it actually works. It's great that you're not, taking over your job yet. It's just doing your tasks. I like that. Anyway, René, you were on the same panel. Could you tell me more your experience at that panel and also what you brought into the panel?
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting panel. And first, to build on what Ruben is saying, I think that's the interesting stage where we are with AI, both highlighted in the panel, but I think by all speakers, actually, the real theme running through today, that we have AI and we really need to differentiate where is AI going to automate and take over tasks so we can scale and be more effective, versus where is AI going to augment what we already do so we can deliver more client or customer value. And what I thought was interesting when we polled the audience, I think everyone was to some extent thinking, working with, or trying to drive AI adoption in the company. And when we asked the question, hey, but do you actually have a proper sense what that means for your workforce? Do you know how you need to change, shape, upskill, adjust kind of the way your people work today? I think 3-4 hands went up in the air. So I think that's the big kind of question mark that is now in the room. We all know AI is here. We have transferred from AI to Gen AI. We're now talking agentic AI. And the real question is, what is the future going to look like? And what does that mean for the main asset of any company today, its workforce?
Because, you have the privilege to have, a lot of clients. And do you get a lot of questions on AI-related things, or is it just business as usual for you?
Depends on how you look at this. My business as usual is helping companies prepare their workforce for the future. If that's business as usual, it's business as usual. Yet, I do think that AI is going to be as profound a shift as maybe the introduction of the internet or the computers 25, 30 years ago. So from that sense, the type of answers to that questions are new. And I think what we need to realize with each other is that we, on the one hand, don't have the answers yet, but we need to start acting now, because if we don't, you're going to be left behind. And secondly, that the transformation and the rate of speed of those transformations is going to accelerate. The example I love to give is 2 years ago, GenAI came up. A year ago, everyone was asking for prompting trainings. 6 months ago, this all went out of fashion because AI could do it for you. Now it's agentic AI, and the real question is going to be, if people struggle to work together, the whole audience has struggled with getting people to work across silos and with each other and not be detached. How are you going to work with software, which is even further from humans than it's today? So overall impact, very much the same, but type of answers and type of solutions new, which I think is also what it makes very exciting. I think, as it was called by some people, vibrant to be in HR today, because there's really, I think, a paradigm shift which is happening today.
And in your own business, are you using AI a lot already?
Well, I think the honest answer is yes, and definitely not enough. So if we look forward and say, where do we want to be in 28, in 3 years from now, we know there's going to be whole parts of our value chain where we say, this is not where we differentiate ourselves, and where we think that AI should essentially take over, bluntly speaking, whether it's some part of the operations, whether it's part of support, etc. And there's other part where we say, well, this is really where we differentiate ourselves. This is the value we want to bring. Deeper analysis, deeper impact, in our case, better didactics. There AI is playing a big role, but can play an even bigger role. And I think that's also my kind of call out, well, to anyone in the room, but anyone in general. Do you really know what are your unique kind of differentiators? What are the elements of your client value proposition? That's why clients come to you and not to your competitor. And are you doubling down on augmenting that with AI and building the human intelligence to have that AI shine? And I think that's still something we need to figure out. I think everyone around the table and everyone in the room is struggling with that and has a piece to play there. But I think if we get that right, there's a bright future ahead for all of us.
Cool. Well, I know you always use the term upskilling, so you're probably upskilling your own people now. You're doing it for a lot of companies, but I think you have how many? Few hundred people now or something? You need to upskill them as well then and get them on that journey.
Yeah, and get them to buy in as well. In that sense, the Dutch saying goes, in a loodgieter's office elected. It's also, of course, the case with us. We need to focus as much as anyone out there on upskilling our own people.
I don't know exactly how to translate that into Dutch right now, but I get the point. So, Tom, I was wondering, given AI was such an important part of this CHRO event, which is actually surprising to me because I thought it was an important part, but not like this became by far and large the number one topic today, I think, during most of the conversations. But I was wondering, same question as to René, within Deloitte and also within your teams, are you using AI already a lot for yourself, not for your customers?
For ourselves, definitely, and for quite a while already. Like you can imagine that Deloitte is a data, insights, and analysis-rich environment, right? And that's in a lot of the essence of what we do. So we have a lot of data and insights available from ourselves, from our clients, etc. And we also have different member firms, right? So every country has kind of their own Deloitte, and they're all developing and inventing, etc. And that creates quite a lot of AI infrastructure and agents on different topics. So no, it's definitely a large part of our reality as a service provider, definitely.
Great. So all three of you are working with it already in your businesses. Back to the program today. Are there other things that you thought stood out, or something that you will definitely remember after you leave this building today? René?
I can just drop in with a quick thing which relates to what Tom was saying earlier. You were talking about having a seat on the table, and the last speaker called out, have you ever been in a team meeting where someone was not speaking up? How valuable and how annoying was that? So if you have that seat at the table, do speak up. It's your duty and people expect it of you. And I think it's on the one hand clear, and I think that just visual analogy, if you translate it to your own teams, I think that will stick with me.
That's great.
Yeah, and also I think translate that into two things probably. So one, it clearly stood out that the human voice is needed. And secondly, it's also about having the confidence to take that seat, right? And to take that voice at the table. Because I think one thing that also stood out, obviously, as with anything at the moment, AI came up as the magic word. But I think there's one nuance to it, is that also the artificial and the human together are shaping the future of our world. And how are they actually combined? How do they work together? Because we definitely see the trajectory, right? From AI to Gen AI to agentic. You already see kind of things coming up as bionic, right? Even more conversion of the two. And in that sense, I think another important takeaway is to really step up as a profession to understand that we are at quite a pivotal moment in time that will fundamentally configure a different way of working, a different way of collaboration, but also a different way of sensing the organization. And in essence, that is not a technology question. In essence, that is way more of a social construct question. And I think HR needs to really think about how do we configure the organizations on the future, not only on AI use cases, but actually what does it fundamentally mean to be an organization in the future?
One thing that really is interesting to me was the last message of Leanne.
Leanne Correct, she's a Fortune 100 board director and former CEO at Boeing Defense.
Local time, 5:30 a.m. She was full of energy and inspiring the audience. And then the topic came up, what aspects, characteristics are important to have and to bring to the table to make impact. And she came up with the 4G model, which totally new to me. 4G stands for grit, gumption, grace, and gratitude. Okay, grit, sure, it's clear to all of us. Gumption was total new definition for me. So I used a very powerful source these days, ChatGPT, just to help me. What's gumption? And actually it's courage, determination, and gezond verstand. So how do we translate it in a nice way? And then grace and gratitude. So the 4G model. And this gives me a really, really good insight and vision about how to communicate with our people, how to develop as a person, as a leader, as a professional, maybe as a family member as well. Yeah, very interesting. So struck with me.
And a side comment from her was that the number 3 and 4, so grace and gratitude, become maybe even more important while you're progressing in your career.
Yeah.
Which makes sense to me. But thanks for pointing out.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because I think it really is connected what the two of you are just saying. Because in the end, really about what's that human element that together with AI is really going to drive that value. And I think these are some of the probably human values that underlie that. And what we need to look at is human skills, whether networking effects, connection, critical thinking, gezond verstand in a different way, and or storytelling are going to be important to drag and grab people along. But I think really that fine line between how we're going to merge technology and humans even further and take the next step from automation. I think that was the real red thread running through everything today. Food for thought.
Absolutely.
This is Leaders in Finance with Jeroen Broekema.
When I was listening to all these different CHROs we had on stage, I was wondering, to what extent do you feel they are really ready for the, let's call the AI revolution or whatever term you would like to use? But do you feel they're ready?
Honestly, some are not. For example, Janine, she is. At least it seems she is. And I think she has adopted AI tools already, not just Copilot, but more than that. And she's proactively thinking about how to prepare the entire workforce of her organization towards the new era, the technological era, combined with the human values, which is such a strong. So I totally agree with René. This is the powerful combination. Reflecting on yourself, who am I as a person? What are my human capabilities? And even more important, my values, my core values. And then embracing AI and using both to make a difference.
Yeah, and I also would like to turn around the question actually. Like, why shouldn't CHROs be more ready than anyone else? Because in essence, what we see is that like technology gets commoditized. Right? That's also from your example, the 16 weeks. Right, we get to low code, no code, etc. So technology gets more and more commoditized. So it's actually, how do we use this technology, this artificial intelligence, these agents, these autonomous organizations? How do we use that in a societal context? How do we use that in an organization context? How do we get the maximum out of that? But also, how do we get the maximum out of our people? That is, in essence, a HR question. So I think we also should really stimulate these HR leaders to get into that confidence and get into that confident seat, right? Like, hey, this is not a technology issue. This is a collaboration question. This is a reshaping of how we work together, how we connect, how we produce, how we do work. So you can also turn it around. Why wouldn't they be more ready than anyone else at the table?
Well, the only answer from my side, I don't know if you're asking the question to me or just in generally rhetorical, but let's say that I could answer. I would say everyone at a C-level, which is CHRO is, should just be the role model in these kind of big changes. That would be my answer. But you want to say something, René?
Yeah, I might have shared this on the previous podcast, and if not, don't listen back to it. But I worked for a while for a Chinese company, and very different from at least what I see in general here in the Western world. They really say CEO sets strategy, CFO puts the financial resources, and CHRO or CPO people puts the human resources behind it. And most of the rest of the C-levels execute. And that CHRO role is super strategic. And if you want to grow in the company in general to more senior management, you must have transitioned through HR for 2 or 3 years. It's almost a logical kind of stint in the transition. And I think back in the days, I thought that was true, which is also how I ended up in HR for a while. But I think it's now more true than ever, because the previous phase of the tech transition, automation, data, internet, was, I think, driven in the end from a process, operations, and tech domain. And the next phase is really how are we going to merge that with the human intelligence? And if there's one seat that should lead that, it is the CHRO seat. Are we ready? Probably not. Are we ever ready for paradigm shifts? Definitely not. But this is the one thing we should get ready for, 100%.
Last question from my side in working towards the end of this podcast episode. But I'm just curious, on a not so serious level, was there something you found particularly funny or something that happened where you thought, this was surprising, or any other thing on a not so much content driven level? I just keep talking so you guys have time to think.
I've got one example to start off. So again, Leanne, she was very funny about the era she started working or worked before internet. And she had this anecdote that her organizations or other organizations told people not to go on the internet, which is funny, but actually very interesting when we look at the era and the pivotal moment we are in at this moment now.
Wonderful. Anything to add, guys?
I won't call it funny, but at least something that's more a meta observation or so. What I love to see today was kind of the vast range of diversity that was there, whether from an age perspective or from a background perspective or from an attitude on tech and on people perspective, quite diverse. But I think I should probably say, the vision, the challenges, the view on what we need to tackle as society was very aligned. Everyone discussed it. And I think with all the people on stage, and there were probably, better than I do, 15, 20 people on stage, I think the individual personalities really shone through. And if you are in a major transformation in life, you need people to attack that and people to attack that with a passion and a vengeance. And I think by seeing the kind of personalities, people were here with their whole and full selves. And that's the only way we're going to get through this transformation.
Wonderful. 15 people, I just checked. So very good guess. It's your strategy consulting background, probably.
Physicist at heart, Once.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I may be aligned with that. Like I also thought we had a really authentic leaders on stage, right? They really dared to be themselves, and I think that could be a great example for pretty much all of us, right? So really bring the whole self. Also, we've seen some vulnerabilities on stage as well, right? We don't have all the answers. It's a journey that I think is important to also speak out in our businesses, right? We're together on this journey. An expedition, and we don't have all the answers, but just engage with it.
Before I ask you if there's something that we really have missed during this podcast, which I will do in a second, I will just answer my own question. So there were 2 things for me. One was the interesting observation that out of these 15 people, that actually 12, I think, were female, which with all the events we do, we've never seen that before. It's always the other way around issue in the financial services. That's one. And the other one was 3 times during the day, I heard the word ally. You need to have allies within your organization. I find that maybe not funny, but interesting that was mentioned particularly, that you really need to build, it is what I would call pockets of trust in your large organizations you work for. Anyway, before I will thank you for joining this podcast, is there something that we should have really mentioned in this episode? This is the moment.
I'd like to add one last thing from my side. So just for the audience, for the listener of this podcast, to think about. It's the prediction of Bill Gates 7 to 8 weeks ago, where he predicts the work week will shift dramatically, will change dramatically. He predicts that we'll have a 2-day work week. Whether it's true or not, it's not really the point at this moment, but it really shows us that we should start thinking about it, and not only thinking, talking and reading, but doing. So go out and venture.
For me, the takeaway really for whole of the group would be like, please be confident, right? Be confident that you have something to bring to the table. Because if we want to drive to a proper and successful and resilient future, then we need that human element strongly embedded into everything business does. So please be confident and show up.
The mission of Lepaya is to change the way companies develop their employees and therefore make the workforces more productive and happier. And I'm confident that we don't know exactly how to do that, but I think with the brains and the energy and the passion and the authenticity I saw in the room today, I think Holland will get there.
Those last words were from René, who is the CEO and founder of Lepaya. Thanks a lot for taking the time, René. Next to you, Ruben Verkuijl, the CEO and founder of Kayak. And next to you again, Tom Alstein, who's partner at Deloitte. Thank you so much for taking the time to reflect with me on this event. And I'm very much looking forward to see you again next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeroen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Leaders in Finance. We hope you've enjoyed the episode and would love to hear from you. What's on your mind? Who would you like to hear next? Let us know in a review, an email, or get in touch via our social channels. We'd greatly appreciate it. Finally, we'd like to thank our partners for their ongoing support. They are Kayak, EY, MeDirect, and Roland Berger. Don't forget to check out all the other things we do at leadersinfinance.nl. Thank you for listening.